Hello everyone, and welcome to this discussion that we have organized in celebration of World Down Syndrome Day. My name is Vanessa and I represent the Academic Enrichment Center at Lyceum International Schools, and with me I have Samantha Van Eyck, who is a speech and language therapist with 16 years experience in the field. So Samantha, just to begin with, why was March 21st selected as World Down Syndrome Day?
All right, so March is the third month, and the 21st is to highlight the uniqueness of the triplication of the 21st chromosome in persons with Down syndrome. So 321, that's why that day was selected.
Right, so interesting. And the theme for this year was why inclusion matters, or inclusion matters actually. And in your opinion, to you, what is inclusion? What should inclusion look like?
Inclusion is equal access, equal opportunities, equal representation in any situation. And I think we discussed this before. We see it in the community, in healthcare, in employment, and in education.
And this word equal keeps coming up because that's what inclusion is about at the end of the day. It's for everyone to have equal opportunities and equal access as well. So today our discussion is based around why inclusion matters. And as a community, what can we do to reinforce inclusion in Sri Lanka? So just to begin with, so you mentioned community, you mentioned education, and these are some of the areas where we can try to really practice inclusion and reinforce inclusion. So how does communication facilitate inclusion? Why is communication important?
As a speech and language therapist, that's a huge area that we work on. So speech would be the actual sounds, and language is the component of language that we have. But communication is how we put all of that together and get our message across to someone, and also how we understand or interpret a message given to us. So anyone wants to share their thoughts, their ideas, their feelings. So communication is crucial for that access and to be included in the community, in all those settings. Communication is crucial to be included.
And you're right, because communication is important for any one of us, right? And whatever age. So if we are looking at these examples that we took, right? So we took education, we took community and society. So let's talk about, in a practical sense, how can we use communication to facilitate inclusion? What are some of the practical tips that we can give our viewers today? So number one, if we are looking at community, let's first look at, okay, what can we do? So someone who is watching, what can I do to facilitate inclusion? So what would be some of your tips on that?
Let me share something that I was listening to in a podcast by the Down Syndrome Foundation in Canada. And they interviewed 3 young adults with Down syndrome. And they asked them that question, what does inclusion mean to them? And it's really interesting to listen to some of the things they say. It's very basic. So one of the young adults said, to be invited. Just to be invited. Be invited to a party, to an event. And then another adult commented that they want to have small talk. You know, okay, how is the weather? How are you today? Oh, it was so hot. There was a power cut yesterday. I couldn't charge my phone. All the little small talk. To have positive vibes. So a smile, a kind of face, your posture, how you'd stand next to someone with Down syndrome. Those give off a certain energy. So it's little things like that. To have like that emotional connection. How are you feeling today? To have some empathy. It's very, very simple, small things like that. And Vanessa, we know that huge things like changing legislation, that's going to take a long time.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it's those small things that these young adults highlighted that each of us can do to facilitate communication and inclusion in society, in community.
Okay. So actually, like now, I was thinking from my point of view as well, because I'm a parent, and something that I can do is to invite a child that I know who has Down syndrome to one of my kids' birthday parties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and you know, probably have like a dance party or a games party or something like that. And in such a situation, communication, how does it help in these situations, and what can we do? So if I'm a parent and I am, you know, inviting a child for a birthday party, what can I do?
Well, first you'd want to talk to the child's parent and ask them some things about safety, firstly, and any communication preferences they have.
Okay.
Any food preferences, we know that that's important too. And entertainment preferences, what games they like to play. So you can include that game in the birthday party. If they do like to run, maybe have a race as a part of one of the games that you have. Okay. And very easy ways to make sure that the child feels comfortable in this environment and can participate in any activities.
Okay. And is there anything that, you know, I should use like as a prop or a material? Is there anything that I should use or can use?
Well, when you speak to the parent and ask about their communication preferences as well, you get some insight into how their child communicates. Okay. As a speech and language therapist, we do focus a lot on the speech output. Okay. But I think we can delve into this a little bit, but using alternative ways of communication. Okay. So we have those AACs. Okay. And it looks very different. You can see in the table, I've kind of brought some things to help us understand this more, because it looks different. And I think the way each of us communicates anyway is different. We use different languages. We use different gestures. Our facial expressions are different. Yeah. So even AACs can look different. Yeah. Let's just pick one. It's a very easy thing. So this is my little AAC for the songs that kids can sing. Okay. So we can use something like this to select. Okay, this is the song I want to sing right now. This is the type of actions that I want to do. So you can wear it around your neck, or the child can have it around him, and to just show it. Oh, let's sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star right now. Or how about Five Little Monkeys?
Love it.
And all the kids around would know, oh, that's Five Little Monkeys. Yeah. And anyone can kind of understand what they're saying. Yeah. So using their communication preferences and making sure that they have something fun to do at the party itself. Yeah, that's going to go a long way in them having fun and you having fun hosting them.
And see, I love something like this because it's easy. Any of us can make it, and it sends out the message that we want it to. But also it gives the child the confidence to communicate as well, right? So one thing that you mentioned was other kids, and I just want to touch on that a little bit, because I think a key component of inclusion is that we don't avoid. So even earlier when you were talking about the importance of small talk, connecting emotionally. It's all about not avoiding, right?
Yes.
And I think these are what these kids want. They don't want people to avoid them. They want them to, have a chat, have a laugh. And I just want to touch base on the word you use, other kids. So this is something I'm really interested in as an educator and as a parent. How do we teach children to learn to embrace uniqueness and differences between each of them? Because we all communicate differently. We don't look the same, we don't behave the same. So how do we encourage them to embrace this?
Communication is really important here, because that's how we express our uniqueness. That's how we can say, I like this, I don't really like this. I'm feeling really happy today. It wasn't such a good day today.
Right.
And that is how we are different. Like our tone of voice is different, our gestures are different, the things we find funny is different. But that's what makes us us, who we are. And being able to communicate it effectively in a way that someone else understands you, that is the first step to being accepted by your peers, which is what all of us want. We want to be accepted.
Yeah. And as you said, communication is so important for all of us, right? And the thing about inclusion is that factors such as acceptance and safety, feeling safe, being safe are so important. And as adults, as parents, as teachers, we play a key role in the message that we send across to our children. My son is 4 years old. Both of us were speaking about this earlier. And, at 4, he has learned this, this boys and girls and how they're separate and we're different. And, one way that I teach him about uniqueness and, how each of us are unique, we have our unique characteristics. And one way that I teach him this is through stories. I use stories about animals and birds and how each animal has a different characteristic, a strength, a weakness. One animal can run fast, another slow. Some are strong, but some are stronger in herds. And this is the kind of approach that I take in teaching him about this, because actually, acceptance, this whole concept of appreciation, which is what I think, these kids were saying as well. They just want to feel accepted.
Yes, that's right.
They want you to have a laugh with them, a chat with them. And this whole thing about appreciation versus segregation is a very important message that we send to all our kids.
Yeah, and I just love that something that you brought out. You use stories to talk about these differences. And it's just so important, the type of language that parents use.
Yeah.
Or the educators or anyone uses to talk about someone. Because children don't always see, oh, this is a boy, this is a girl. But if somebody highlights it, you know what, you're a boy.
Yeah.
You have to play football. You can't, you can't touch that doll. Then they start to question it.
Yeah.
What is this? What is a boy? What is a girl?
Yeah.
So it's a really important type of language we use to talk about things and address it. So that's something that all of us as adults can remember and keep in mind.
Yeah, so important. So Samantha, can you tell me a little bit more about what you have here? All these colorful materials.
Yes. Very important in communication is supporting children's communication needs. And we know that children with Down syndrome can have delays, or they might not achieve their milestones at the relevant ages. So we don't want to hold back on giving them a chance to communicate, and we use a lot of AACs for this.
Okay.
So, an AAC is an alternative or augmentative way of communicating.
Okay.
And one thing I showed you was pictures.
Yeah.
And I really want to highlight that it can look very different. And some concern that parents have is, will they only rely on this?
That's
will
right,
they not
yeah.
be able to talk at all?
Yeah.
And I want to say that it is a common concern, but it's also a common myth.
Okay.
There's a lot of research to support that ASCs actually facilitate more communication and support children towards achieving verbal communication. And there's no research to show that it holds them back.
Okay.
And if we think about it, when you put yourself in your child's shoes, you want them to say how they feel, to say what they want.
Yeah.
If they don't get a chance to, they're going to feel frustrated.
Yeah.
The other thing is, when we look at a lot of the experiences of ASC users now, when they are able to talk about it, they say that just basically having a way to communicate, that's what matters.
Yeah.
And if we give our kids a way to communicate, they're going to feel motivated. They want to do it again. They want to say, I want Twinkle Twinkle Little Star again and again.
Yeah.
So let me show you some of the things that I have, which is straight out of my clinic, nothing fancy, just a printed laminated card in a basic ring binder that you can get from a bookstore. But this is what we call the core vocabulary board.
Okay.
So it has a lot of the words that we need for basic sentences, like I want or I like.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have vocabulary up here, so you can build different sentences. You can say I want bubbles, or I want to play with the car. And think about this, Vanessa. If my kid is, I don't want to drink water right now, and taking the bottle and throwing it out the window.
Yeah.
Do you want that, or do you want them to say no water? That's going to work much better than that physical communication.
So it also helps them to communicate in a way that's appropriate.
Yes.
Socially appropriate.
That's right. And they can use it with you at home. They can use it with their teacher. They can use it with their friends. They can use it when they go to McDonald's. It's something that works anywhere.
So something like this can be adapted to a similar sort of way.
Yes.
So if you, instead of having the songs, you can say I want or I like written on it.
Yes.
And gives them the confidence to communicate that.
Yes. We can have feelings. I'm happy, I'm excited, angry, sleepy. So when you work with your speech and language therapist, they would help you select very specific targets for communication. So we won't use this for everything.
Yeah.
We might use different things. We'd use, ready, steady, go, a little card. This is really fun, I want to say. Or,
for the last time, no.
Yeah. So they're sending that message across, but be very specific. So for example, if you want them, when you're reading a story, to say maybe apples and oranges, like the fruits, you might have like the pictures of fruits, or you might have the fruits themselves, and you say apples, and then he had one apple, and you can make the eating sound, yum, 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 and you can have it recorded on a switch. So they are participating.
Right.
And communication is all about enjoying that interaction.
Yeah.
So we can definitely use different AACs in our communication, but pick things that work for you. It can be overwhelming for parents to think of all the different ways. So be very specific. Or when I read this story, we're going to do the fruits. When it's bubbles, I'm going to say I want bubbles, and pop, and yay, and again, and more.
Right.
Be very specific in what you choose to do, but support that communication.
And I have met many parents who think that communication or support with communication isn't that much of a priority. It's more of a secondary need. And so how important is it to get the support for your child's communication needs? How important is it, and how early should a parent start?
There are no prerequisites to using ASCs.
Okay.
So you can start as early as you want to. You can use sign speech. Even babies can, learn signs. And that's like for very young kids. But we even have adults who might later on in life require an AAC to support their communication, because they might have difficulties in, maybe they're physically or more like a hearing. So you might need an AAC. So it's never too early and it's never too late.
Okay, I like that. So how can AACs be used in a classroom environment? So if a teacher is watching us and thinking, oh, I would like to, incorporate some of these in my classroom, what would she need to do?
Okay,
he or she need to do.
That's the difference. We might not want the teacher to encourage that I want, there's a timetable that they need to follow. Maybe they're doing a counting task, and they need to say, how many, and these are pasted over here, are the animals. So they can easily say, there are 4 horses and 3 sheep. Yeah. So a teacher would again use something very specific to that task. If they want colors, again, here we go. You can find things online, Google search an AAC or like a communication support for a specific task, or again work with the speech therapist to decide on what goals you want to use AACs for. But rather than having a student who cannot say the sound or cannot say the numbers at all, here you have a way that they can answer your question, they can participate in that classroom activity.
So Samantha, I see that you use a lot of visuals in your work. Why is that important?
When we work with children with Down syndrome, there's a lot of research that shows that one of the strengths that they have is to understand things that they see. So they're visual learners, and they also use gestures. That's something that they can use quite well. And we know those are part of development anyway. So we play to their strengths. As educators, we look at that, we use that model, strengths and vulnerability. So we want to play to their strengths and use their strengths to help them learn. And this is really important for not just communication, but also how they organize themselves. And we spoke about this earlier when we work in schools, especially for children in the classroom. How important is it to have those executive functioning skills?
Yes. So executive functioning skills would help them to remember better, help them to really understand better, to comprehend, etc. And so what are some of the things that teachers can do? So in a classroom, right? So we are looking at communication. What are some of the other things that teachers can prepare in order for children to communicate in a way that they can be understood, but also to understand?
Right. If we touch on what are executive functioning skills, those are the skills that we need to organize ourselves to complete a task, to know, okay, this is what I do first and next, and after that, where do I go, what do I do? When we have to problem solve, the steps that we take, those are executive functioning skills. So when we think of the classroom, one of the things we want them to know is what they are doing. And like I said, we don't want them to say, I want at that point, but rather, this is what you do. We don't want to be too forceful, but we want them to understand it. All right, so a teacher can use a visual timetable. So we got the activities right here, and we can put down like what they're going to do first, second, third, fourth. And then once they're done, there's a little check that they can put in. There's also room for the student to request for a break. If there's like a sensory overload or they need some time out to drink water, that communication is also there. That's what it's going to look like once you're done. And we can also use like the first and then technique.
Right.
So first, this is what you say. Let's do a storybook. And then your student has the opportunity to select their favorite activity. And maybe even a token board. So you've got to do 5 tasks and then you get your task that you prefer. This is very, very effective for teachers to use, because it's not the teacher saying, you know, you need to do this, you need to do this. It's sometimes I tell parents, it's like this supernatural force, something out there that's beyond our control, that's telling us, you know, we need to kind of follow this. And those are rules, right? Rules don't always have so and so said this is the rule. That's right. Rules are rules. That's a concept that's difficult to understand, but here you go. That's a very easy way that a teacher can use that. And like we said, the way that they get answers as well. We can have visuals. We can have maybe the alphabet out there so that they can point to the letters when they need to spell out a word. Maybe they look at it before writing, so that the teacher is supporting those skills they need to complete a task. And let's talk about a little bit more about executive function skills, because the skills that you teach children when they're really young has this huge trajectory to improve their learning as they get older. Something that's very important is attention and attention shifting. So what does a young child do when someone walks into a room? Are they able to, you know, they're playing with something, look up, look at that person, smile, come back? So that's a skill you need in the classroom. You might be drawing, but then the teacher walks in and there's some important information coming your way. How do you shift? So at that very young age, when, you know, they're playing with something and you walk into a room, you want to play like a hey, peekaboo game, so that they know, okay, I'm doing this, but then I can also look at the person and then come back to it. Another type of skill they need is working memory. You know, when you have to do like this math task and you need to remember all the information that's coming your way. So again, when they're very young, how do we help them with their working memory? We see this with kids. We say, you know, bring your bag, bring your bottle, put on your shoes, and I'll see you at the car. They're just at the car. They've missed out on bag, bottle, shoes. It's just, oh, the last thing I heard was car, so I'm straight at the car. So use a little narration. Okay, so I'm going to take my bag, take my bottle and my shoes, and then it's the car. And you do this as a routine every day. And then they pick it up. Oh, that's fun. I know what to do and I know what comes next. Again, say we're going to bed and I say, first I say, good night, Mr. Bear. Good night, Mr. Sheep. I give Amma a hug. Then I put my head on the pillow. And then again, it's a routine that you keep doing every day. And then you can use that in the classroom as well. So, okay, I've got that math task. What do I do? First my pencil case, then my math book, then I turn it, then I listen, then I write the answers, then I show the teacher. There's like that chaining of actions. So those things that we do when they're very young support their learning when they're older.
Oh, that's so interesting. And actually, so what I really like about this also is the fact that it gives the child a choice, like an element of choice and an element of control. So, you know, they can choose some of the activities. They might choose what they want to start with first, what they want to go on, you know, after that. Or so it's it kind of gives them as well that element of, you know, control, other than being told, oh, just do this and do this and do this.
And with choice, so I'm very specific with parents, like, don't give them a choice, do you want to have lunch or not? No. Use that choice making maybe during snack time. When it can be my biscuits or, you know, a packet of milk, but not, do you want to have lunch? Yes, no. If they say no, you're done.
Okay, so it's really interesting also how you can adapt this to a classroom environment, home as well. and adapt it to, okay, the activity you're doing, but also to a child's routine, timetable. I'm assuming even classroom rules, like appropriate behaviors for classroom, can be communicated with something like this.
For teachers, this is so important. You can have the different rules, like listen to the teacher, quiet hands, some very specific rules that we just show it to the student. You don't always have to vocalize it. You can remind them.
That's right.
Quiet hands, things like that. So it's really important that communication is positive interactions. And it's very it encourages, it motivates children to listen to you and also express themselves. It's not rigid. Communication is dynamic. So pick very positive interactions, and those are your goals.
So Samantha, what would be your take-home tips for us if we are to summarize everything that we have learned today and we've spoken about? What would be some really important take-home tips for us?
All right, so the first thing we spoke about was inclusion, acceptance. Do very small things, the small talk, invite them, ask how you feel, be very positive with how you communicate. That's inclusion at a very basic level. Where we go with the huge thing for speech and language therapists, which is AACs, and it's huge for any child. They want to communicate. Support their communication. It is not just verbal output, but it can be any type of communication: gestures, pictures, sounds. Can be like a high-tech AAC, an app, but support their communication. Don't wait for them to speak only, but facilitate it. Help them get to that goal. And then whenever we are addressing a learning skill, executive functioning skills need to be a part of it. When I give an instruction, am I missing out on something? Maybe it's like the working memory, maybe it's their attention, maybe it's the problem solving. Think of those skills as well that support our end goal, which is to get them to do a specific task. What else do we need?
Okay. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
So we have spoken about so many things, and all of these things play a key role. A key role in a child's life. To help them to become confident, to become effective communicators, and it's not only about what works in a classroom or what works in a specific situation. A lot what we spoke about today can be adapted to almost any context, and that's where communication is key. And now we have the absolute privilege of hearing from Anusha. Anusha is a parent. Her son is 24 years old and he has Down syndrome. His name is Pramukha. So Anusha is going to share some of her ideas, everything that she has learned from her own experience as well.
Hi, good morning, Miss Vanessa and Miss Samantha. So first and foremost, let me thank Miss Vanessa for giving me this opportunity to talk about the journey with my son Pramukha, who is a child with Down syndrome. Actually, truly, I'm very excited about this, and I'm also very happy at this moment to give my thoughts and views, which I believe will benefit the young parents out there.
So Anusha, may I ask you, what does inclusion for your son mean to you as a parent?
Well, I feel as a parent, inclusion is a very important area for a child with special needs. It will give them equal opportunities to grow naturally with other mainstream students. Also, it will help them to develop their much needed social skills, and also, very importantly, it will make them feel accepted. So if I talk about my son Pramukha, actually way back in 1997, the time he was born, there weren't many institutions which had an education system that supported inclusion. So therefore we had to enroll him to a special needs school, which in my view is not the best for them. But then again, I feel inclusion is not something they should get only in school. They should actually get it from their home environment as well. So I feel it is important that we give them enough opportunities even at home to develop without a difference.
And as a parent, what are some of the steps that you took to include your son into society?
Well, first and foremost, I believe that inclusion begins at home. So it is very important that we take them out to society from their young age. After all, they too are a very important part of society. So why leave them out? Make them feel happy and free and wanted too. We take Pramukha everywhere we go. Church, trips, weddings, you name it, we have taken him everywhere. Overseas trips, theatre, yeah. So let them enjoy life too. Don't think twice to take them out into society. I'm not saying that it's going to be rosy every day, but that's part of bringing up a child with special needs. And always do believe that we are the chosen parents for these children. We were chosen because we are the best for them and we can do the best for them.
And the final question for you, Anusha, is what advice would you give to a young parent who has a child with Down syndrome? You've had so many years of experience yourself, so what would your advice be?
Okay, so let me put it this way. It's all about acceptance. It's you who will have to go through this journey with your child. It's up to you to accept and enjoy the journey or think it as a burden and be troubled by the circumstances. So the choice is yours. Okay, I think I should add this too. I was only 29 when my son Pramukha was born. He's my firstborn. I was not even in the bracket of women at risk of getting a child with Down syndrome. As any parent, my husband and I too were expecting a healthy baby. But when the news was told to us by the doctor about his condition, I was not crushed or despaired. Even to date, I don't know why, but I was not crushed or despaired at all. So that made the journey more interesting. I even chose to become a special needs educator after my early retirement from the corporate sector, simply because of my passion to be around them. You can be happy around them, learn a lot from them. They are unconditional love, honesty, cheer, they are pure hearts. So parents, in conclusion, I would like to add this as well. Early intervention therapy too is a very important area in their growth. Basic stuff like rolling, crawling, sitting up, standing, walking don't come naturally to them. You need to give them a little push as they struggle to understand what comes next. So good luck parents. Enjoy your child and make it rewarding and interesting to you and your precious child. Thank you and may God bless you all.
And with that, we have come to the end of our talk. We really hope that this promotes and encourages more conversation about inclusion, acceptance, how and why inclusion matters. Samantha and I would love to hear from you. If you have any thoughts that you would like to share or any questions you would like to ask us, please feel free to do so in the comments. Thank you and have a great day.